Ding, 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 ding. Book of Acts, chapter 18. After he had left Athens and went to Corinth, he met a Jew called Aquila, a native of Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had ordered all Jews to leave Rome. He went to visit them, and because he practiced the same trade, stayed with them and worked for they were tent makers by trade. Every Sabbath he entered into discussions in the synagogue, attempting to convince both Jews and Greeks. When Silas and Timothy went from Macedonia, Paul began to occupy himself totally with preaching the word, testifying to the Jews that the Messiah was Jesus. When they opposed him and reviled him, he shook out his garments and said to them, "Your blood be on your hands. I am clear of responsibility. From now on, I'll go to the Gentiles." So he left there and went to the house belonging to a man called Titus Justus, a worshiper of God. His house was next to a synagogue. Crispus, the synagogue official, came to believe in the Lord with his entire household, and came to believe in the Lord with his entire household. And many of the Corinthians who heard believed and were baptized. One night in a vision, the Lord said to Paul, "Do not be afraid. Go on speaking, and do not be silent. For I am with you. No one will attack and harm you, for I have many people in the city." He settled there for a year, and have taught the word of the God among them. But when Gallio was proconsul of Achaia, the Jews rose together against Paul and brought him to the tribunal, saying, This man is inducing people to worship God contrary to the law." But when Paul was about to reply, Gallio spoke to the Jews. "If it were a matter of some crime or malicious fraud, I should with reason hear the complaint of you Jews. But since it is the question of arguments over doctrine and titles, and in your own laws, see to it yourselves. I do not wish to be a judge in such matters." Then he drove them away from the tribunal. They all seized Cerinthus, the synagogue official, beat him in full view of the tribunal. None of this was of concern to Gallio. Paul remained quiet for some time, and after saying farewell to the brothers, he sailed for Syria, together with Priscilla and Aquila and Centaurea. He had his hair cut because he had taken a vow. When he reached Ephesus, he went up to them. He left them there. When he went up to the synagogue and held the discussions with the Jews, although they asked him to stay for a longer time, he did not consent. But as he said farewell, he promised, "I shall come back to you again, God willing." Then he set sail for Ephesus. Upon landing at Caesarea, he went up and greeted the church, and went down to Antioch. After staying there for some time, he left and traveled in an orderly sequence through the Galilean country and Perea, bringing strength to all the disciples. A Jew named Apollos, a native of Alexandria, an eloquent speaker, arrived in Ephesus. He was an authority of the Scriptures. But he had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and with adherent spirit, spoke and taught accurately about Jesus, although he knew only the baptism of John. He began to speak boldly in the synagogue, but when Priscilla and Aquila heard them, they took him aside and explained to him the way of God more accurately. But when he wanted to cross Achaia, the brothers encouraged him, and he wrote to the disciples there to welcome him. After arrival, he gave a great assistance to those who he had become to believe through grace. He rigorously refuted Jews in public, establishing from the Scriptures that the Messiah is Jesus. Okay, chapter 19. Thank you for watching.